Thanks, Mr. Secretary. So one of the things that we've seen, and it's happened faster than I think the experts anticipated, especially over the past decade, is that the Chinese military and the naval services have closed the gap on the U.S., both in terms of quantity, but in also quality, much faster than expected. So the gap, I agree with you, I think we still have an edge, but the gap is getting smaller. They've done things, they're looking at their military platforms the way maybe Silicon Valley or industry would look at a product. So there's iterative manufacturing and design,
Right.
beta testing, constantly upgrading. And we're looking at what the Pentagon does, where we have these pristine processes that take decades to get to a platform that's perfect or near perfect. But it's taken us forever to get the products designed and then eventually deployed, and at a very high expense. What does the Pentagon need to do to keep the edge and also to fix procurement? In some ways to make sure that the Chinese don't catch up the way they appear to be doing relatively quickly.
Yes, well, I think the procurement question is obviously a very broad question, but I think what was healthy about the military industry complex in the U.S., was relatively healthy about it during the Cold War, was we had some balance of bigger companies and a lot of smaller companies in the ecosystem, and I think big companies are generally good at doing things at scale. Small companies are generally better at innovating and coming out with new products. And you want some ecosystem that has a blend of both kinds of companies. And I think what happened in '89 after the Cold War ended was there was a shrinking of military budgets, but there was also an incredible consolidation of the defense industry. And the consolidation actually meant that the money was spent less efficiently, especially with respect to R&D. And so we spent less money and less efficiently, and so there was some massive decline in the effectiveness of the system in the '90s. I think there have been various attempts over the last half decade to reform the procurement process, to figure out ways to fund smaller companies, to allocate some R&D to all these different projects. I think we've improved some, but it has to be sort of an integrated process. You don't want to just get a $5 million DARPA grant where what you invent gets stuck in a broom closet in the Pentagon. It has to somehow, you have to be able to get to a pilot that scales, and it has to be integrated into the whole procurement process. And there's just all these risk-averse things where you're probably if you're working in the Defense Department, it's always safe to go with IBM or something like that, but it never works.